Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly and I am your host. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Freeman. Matt, how's it going this week?
It's going pretty good, Scott. I'm looking forward to talking about this movie that we've actually been wanting to talk about for a while.
Yeah, we have. We've got a really exciting show this week, Matt. We're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. The big thing, that the title element of the show is we are starting our Deconstructing Directors series once again. This is something you and I did quite a few times over the course of our old podcast, the Daily Planet podcast.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite features, actually.
Yeah, and it's something I really missed doing too. So we're starting this over again, and we're starting it with the Wachowski sisters. Is it Kowski or Chowski?
I say Wachowski.
Okay, that's what I say too, but I said it and it felt wrong, and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So this week we are starting with their very first film, Bound, a movie that I don't think you and I had ever seen before we wanted to do this, because actually we were supposed to do this episode months ago, Matt. I think it was April, I think. Yeah, because it was my sister's wedding weekend, because I remember my cousin was here and we were trying to record that episode. And we had some computer issues and it got tossed to the side and we just never picked it up again.
Yeah, and I think originally the Deconstructing Directors series was essentially we talk about all of or most of the director's movies all in the same show. And while that was fun, and we could actually tease out a lot of very interesting things and motifs across the director's works, the new approach that we're going with is more of a deep dive, spending more time on each of the movies in the director's oeuvre, or the pair of directors in this case. Yeah,
and I think that's gonna. I hope that lends to better conversation and maybe a better deconstruction. I felt like, as much as I do think you're absolutely right that our old format allowed like revelations. Like, remember when we figured out exactly what was wrong with why am I blanking on his name?
Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, there you go. See, I can't even remember his name. That's how insignificant he is anymore. Because we cracked him and then we didn't, just threw him out of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sometimes I felt rushed. You know, like we did the Tarantino episode, and he's done so many films, and we have so much to say about him that we kind of just like tore through some of the movies. And I'm hoping that doing it this way allows us to spend that time with each one of those movies. So each time we return to the Deconstructing the Wachowskis series, we will be covering a new one of their movies. I don't think we've decided, Matt, if we're going to do The Matrix one at a time or all at once. Maybe we'll make that like a game time decision. I think there's enough in each movie to talk about them for a while, but I also think The Matrix has been a series that's been talked to death. So maybe accelerating that one would not be a bad idea.
Yeah, we'll see how it feels when we get there.
Yeah. But we're also going to quickly recap the summer, because summer movie season is just about over. And we're going to look at the biggest movies over the summer and the industry as a whole. And we're going to talk about MoviePass, Matt. I think it's time for our podcast to talk about the rise and the fall of MoviePass.
Yes, that will be fun.
So first up, let's talk summer. So I think with the release of The Meg, the Big Shark movie, I don't know if you saw that movie. I did, but with the release of The Meg, summer movie season is basically coming to a close. We still have Crazy Rich Asians opening this weekend. I think there's a couple more movies opening at the end of August, but it's basically over, Matt. Summer is over. Summer movie season is over.
Yeah. I mean, there were some good ones. There were some mediocre ones. There were some disappointments. Let's talk about the summer.
Yeah. So I have here in front of me the top 10 highest grossing films of the summer. This is a little bit weird because I pulled this information from boxofficemojo.com, and they have a very strict start and end to summer. So to them, summer does not start until May 1st, which means Avengers Infinity War is not a summer movie to them. They did not consider it a summer movie, even though I think it opened April 27th, but they're just very strict. So it's not a summer movie. It doesn't count. So this is not on the list of the top 10, but it is the biggest movie of the year looking globally. Interestingly enough, though, Matt, it's not the biggest movie of the year domestically. Black Panther actually earned $22 million more in the United States than Infinity War. I think it was like $700 million to $630 78 or something.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's really surprising.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I am just looking at the domestic totals, just for the U.S. And our top 10 here at number 1, Matt, we have Incredibles 2, a movie that you and I reviewed for our old podcast, and I think we were fairly mixed on it. I think you liked that movie more than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think we managed to nitpick it a bit, but I think overall it was a good flick.
Yeah, so that movie did incredibly well, though. I mean, almost $600 million here, over $1 billion worldwide. You think they're gonna make an Incredibles 3?
I mean, good question, because part of me wants to say no, but also Pixar has definitely shucked off their hesitancy regarding sequels. So
yeah,
maybe.
And I wonder how much of that is to put at Pixar's feet, and how much of that is the Disney monster looming overhead, forcing their hand. You know?
Yeah, I would guess the latter one.
Yeah, I think so too. In second place, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. You never saw this movie, right?
Nope. Boycott.
Good call. Oh no, you're starting to sound more like Michael.
Spreading, huh? No, I mean, it just, no, not actually boycott. It just looked terrible, and I didn't really like the previous one, so. It
was bad. I shouldn't have seen it. But it was number 2, 410 million. It did very well. It earned, I think, 1.3 billion worldwide. A success, to be sure, not as big as the last one, but I don't think anyone expected that, which means we're going to get more Jurassic World movies. Hooray.
Yay. Well, I can't feel too bad because it's got dinosaurs in it, and that automatically raises it a few notches. But, when you start out with what they had to work with, it doesn't matter how many notches you raise it.
Yeah. And of all the movies here on the top 10, I think this is my least favorite of the ones I've seen. So that's kind of how it happens with the Jurassic World franchise for me, I guess. Yeah. I really did not like the first one either.
Yeah.
At number 3, Deadpool 2 with 318 million. Not quite. Well, actually, I'm not. I don't think it out earned the first one, but it's still pretty well for this rated R superhero movie.
Yeah, for this ridiculous thing that no one would have ever guessed. Yeah. I still haven't seen this. I really want to. I always kind of wanted to. I just didn't make it in the theater.
I think it's hitting streaming pretty soon. If I'm correct. Yeah, it looks like actually you can purchase it now.
Cool. Yeah. I'll do that.
On Amazon Prime. You can't rent it yet. It's like streaming is weird, right? Like first you can digital purchase. I think digital purchase comes out 2 weeks before physical medium purchase, like before you can buy a disc. And I think you can't rent until discs are available. So you probably can't rent the film for 2 weeks, but
I might just buy it.
That means it's coming soon.
I mean,
I think it's worth it.
But. Yeah, I mean, it's not that. It's like the price of 2 movie tickets to own it forever.
I like Deadpool 2 a lot. I actually liked it more than the first one. Which is, I think, an unpopular opinion. I think most of the people I've talked to seem to like the first movie better. I didn't think the first movie was quite as good as everyone made it seem. I had a good time with it, but this one, I don't know. There's just something about Deadpool 2 that I really liked, and I'm glad to see it doing so well. And I want more, but I also recognize that this thing's gonna wear thin really fast.
Yeah. No, I'm just pleasantly surprised that it was any good at all. So
yeah. In fourth place, the box office failure that is the 4th biggest movie of the summer, Solo: A Star Wars Story, a movie that you and I did not really like at all.
Nope, we already hashed this one out.
Yeah, so we're not gonna redo that one, but it is surprising to me that this was considered a disaster, a failure, and it's the 4th biggest movie of the summer. That just goes to show what the expectations are for the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, well, perhaps not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, and at number 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp, considered a box office success, earning less than Solo: A Star Wars Story. You didn't see this one, right? I don't think.
No, I would like to. I mean, I'm definitely less invested in the Ant-Man franchise than I am in the Deadpool franchise, but yeah, I'd like to see it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, I really like both of these movies. I'm not making a joke here. They are smaller films. They are less important in the whole MCU thing, and I like that small story that it's really like the Ant-Man stories are really just about family in different kind of ways, and I enjoy them a lot. I thought this was a pretty good movie, and I'm glad it did well. Peyton Reed, keep it up.
Yeah,
In sixth place, Mission Impossible Fallout at 168 million. This movie's doing really well. I'm very surprised that at 61 million, this was the biggest opening for a Mission Impossible movie ever. That seems very surprising to me because like 61 million in today's box office isn't that. I mean, Deadpool 2 did 125, so it's kind of surprising to me that these movies aren't as big of a box office draw as I thought they would be. I mean, obviously 168 million is nothing to sneeze at. It's a huge number, but that was surprising to me.
Yeah, the Mission Impossible franchise is an odd duck. It doesn't really cater to like people's tastes in the same way as some of the other massive action blockbuster franchises. But I did see this one and I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, I love this franchise, and I never would have thought this thing would still be trucking 20, almost 30 years later, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy, and I think it's fully embraced what it's turned into, and it's like I think I compare this to the Fast and the Furious franchise a lot. That has just kind of found its niche, and it's just going full tilt into it and having a great time doing it, and continuing to be successul. So, good job, Tom.
Yeah.
Please don't kill yourself for a silly stunt.
Yeah. Oh, he's having a lot of fun.
I think, he's like proving that Scientology just makes you a better human being.
Is that what he's doing? Oh.
I think so.
That's a disappointing perspective.
At number 7, Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation at 149 million. A movie that you and I haven't seen. I would be shocked if you told me you saw this movie. But.
No, I missed this one.
I've missed all the Hotel Transylvania movies. In fact, I'm kind of surprised to learn that there are 3 of them.
I couldn't tell you a single piece of information about these movies.
I know Adam Sandler plays Dracula. That's all I know.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the informations would have been that there's a Dracula in the movie, but that's all I know.
All right, so at number 8 is the Ocean's 11 reboot, Ocean's 8 at 138 million. We were planning on doing an episode about this, and I think we just made the call that there wasn't enough to say here. I think this movie is fine. I'm happy to see it earn money, but there's just not a lot there for me.
Yeah, I was excited to see it, and then I heard it was lackluster.
Yeah. I mean, I would not call it a bad movie, but I don't know. It's not as good, and it's not good because it's a female cast, it's a female inversion. That's a dumb reason. It's just not as appealing as a movie. I think F. Gary Gray directed it, and he is just not Soderbergh. He's not. He doesn't have that kind of eye and that kind of skill that I enjoyed so much in Ocean's 11. So
yeah, fair enough.
Number 9, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. The sequel to Mamma Mia earned over $100 million. I have not seen either of these movies, so I don't have anything to say here.
Neither do I.
Other than you put Cher in a movie, and I guess you earn $100 million.
That sounds like a good formula.
And rounding out the list at number 10 is The Equalizer 2. I still think there's a chance that The Meg could jump into this slot. Depending on how it does in the next 2 weeks, because I think the summer officially closes in Labor Day, but it would have to do pretty well to do that. But Equalizer 2.
Okay.
Did you ever see either of the Equalizer movies?
I saw the first one. I thought it was fun. I thought it was exactly what is on the tin. And perfectly delivers the experience that you bought in for when you bought that ticket. So I kind of do want to see this. I do not think I'm going to see it in theaters, but I bet it's fun.
I've heard that is basically this movie too. That you get basically exactly what you're going for.
Great.
And first Denzel Washington sequel in his entire career. Did you know that? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Wow.
I was shocked when the first time I read that, I was like, that can't be true.
Yeah.
And then you look on his IMDb. Nope, it is absolutely true.
Wow. He's man of integrity.
That is the summer, Matt. What was your favorite movie of the summer? You can say Infinity War because we're not following Box Office Mojo's rules.
Unless something is escaping me at the moment, which is. And also, I'm not really good at keeping track of what was in the summer and what wasn't. I'm going to say Infinity War, I think. So I love that, and I watched.
You've recently rewatched that, right?
Yep, yeah. I bought it on Amazon as soon as it came out, and watched it again, and found that I still loved it. Still thought it was extremely well made, and it's just sort of, I mean, I know there's going to be another one, but it's like the perfect culmination of this MCU thing that they've made, which has succeeded so well against all odds. I kind of can't believe that this thing exists, honestly.
Yeah. You when we were talking earlier in the week, you described the movie as operatic to me, and I think that's like the perfect word for it.
Yeah. Certain things like that came across more on the rewatch because you're noticing kind of the melodramatic, operatic nature of it, and it's great.
Yeah. So before we wrap this thing up, I just we talked about the big movies. I wanted to talk about the small movies, and I wanted to talk about 2018. So this is really interesting to me, Matt. We're going to get a little political here. We're really into the Trump administration now, and we're at the point where people that have decided to make movies since Trump was elected president, their movies are coming out now. So we're getting to see what like the art of this political administration will look like. And it's very clear that the art of this administration is angry and doesn't and is screaming to be heard and doesn't really care if you're pissed off by what it has to say. Especially like this year is like huge for African American filmmakers. I mean, like even mainstream. I mean, Black Panther, like we said, is the biggest movie of the year domestically. Wrinkle in Time is the biggest movie directed by a Black female ever. And then you have these indie movies that I saw: Sorry to Bother You, Blind Spotting, and Black Klansman. These movies made by Black directors that just are like unapologetically telling the experience of being a Black person in this country, and they are pissed off and wonderful. And I've enjoyed these movies so much. We're kind of witnessing like a moment in cinema, I feel like, and I think it's important to talk about. And I understand we're two white guys talking about this, but we are witnessing this rise of and I don't want to say like a rise of Black filmmakers, because there's been Black filmmakers for a very long time, but like within the past, let's say 18 months, we had Get Out, which was a huge movie. Then we have Black Panther, and then all these movies keep coming out. And I just think we're living inside this moment, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's the audience. These movies have found their audience, perhaps, or the audience has realized that they have a hunger for this particular message. You could analyze it a dozen different ways, I imagine, as to why this is happening right now exactly. But yeah, no, all analysis aside, it's a fascinating time to be paying attention to movies.
Yeah, and everyone out there, these are movies you need to see, I think. Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley is one of the most weird, fascinating, hilarious, angry, satirical films I've ever seen. It's like the biggest send up of both not capitalism specifically, but a very American form of capitalism that like it's the most pro-union movie I've ever seen. And like it has such a clear voice and vision to it. And I feel the same way about Black Klansman, which is a movie I saw last weekend, which I think, it's Spike Lee. I love Spike Lee. I think he's a great director. This is one of the best movies he's ever made. I think it's definitely the best he's done since Inside Man. I don't know if you remember that movie, the 2006 bank robbery one.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. It's a very mainstream movie. Like Spike Lee does mainstream stuff and then does much more like smaller, like indie films where he really pushes the envelope. It's mainstream. Black Klansman is a movie hiding in a buddy cop formula, but it is still saying something very loudly and very clearly to people. And I think it's actually brilliant that he hides this very powerful, potent message inside what looks like a mainstream buddy cop movie. And the last 5 minutes of this movie will knock your socks off. It's so good.
Okay, yeah, I know. I definitely want to see this one.
Yeah, so that's the summer. I mean, I think a great mix of huge, wonderful, fun blockbuster movies and really powerful, smaller movies. We talked about 8th Grade on this podcast already, so I won't do that. But I think, ticket sales for summer were down when you look at Box Office Mojo. But again, they don't count Avengers Infinity War as summer. So I think if you look at 2018 up until August 15th, ticket sales are actually up from last year, which is good because it's, generally trending downwards. So people going to the movies more, and maybe there's a reason for that, Matt. And that's like, it's like a segue. All right. So the second segment of the week, we're going to talk about MoviePass. Matt, do you know what MoviePass is?
Oh, I have a passing familiarity with it, but I don't have a MoviePass myself. Would you enlighten us?
I was a MoviePass subscriber from September 2017 until June 2018 when they made some changes that made me say, fuck you guys. So for those that don't know, MoviePass is the subscription movie service. I'm trying to think of how to word this. Like, it's currently $9.95 a month. And for a long time, you got unlimited movies for that low price. Unlimited movies meaning you can go to the theater once per day and get a movie ticket. So this Matt, this service has had a long history. And we're going to try to kind of quickly summarize it as quickly as we can, because I think it's a fascinating story before we talk about maybe what its effect on the industry is and how things are going to look going forward. But so very quickly, MoviePass was originally founded in 2011. From this point on, for about 6 years, they were kind of just experimenting with this new subscription model thing. They were pricing it differently, giving different things. At one point, like, they offered like a $15 per month and you only got 2 movies. And then they did like a $50 per month and you got 6 movies. At one point, they were $99 a month for unlimited movies. And then in 2016, they got a new CEO, a guy named Mitch Lowe. He was a former executive of both Redbox and Netflix. So this is I think they call them disruptors, Matt. This is a guy that wants to go into a business and change the game.
Yeah, shake it up.
Well, yeah. So in August of last year, in August of 2017, a majority stake in MoviePass was sold to the analytics firm Helios and Matheson. And they introduced a revolutionary new pricing model, unlimited movies for $9.95 a month. People went insane, Matt. The website crashed because too many people were on it. Even the people that managed to sign up, there were like delays in getting the credit card they send you for months because they just weren't expecting this. For comparison, prior to this change, they had about 20,000 subscribers. By the end of October, they had about 500,000. And by the end of December, they were at 1 million people subscribed to the service.
Wow.
And this is of course because it's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
Because movie tickets cost about $10 on average, depending on where you live. I think the literal average price of a movie ticket in 2018 is $9.50. So if you live in a heavily populated area in a big city, your subscription service would pay for itself with 1 ticket.
Right.
If you see 2, you've doubled it. And MoviePass, the way they had set up their business, was paying full price for all of these tickets. So the question immediately became, how the hell is this going to make this company money? And the answer is, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah. This is the kind of thing where as you're watching it unfold, you're halfway suspecting some kind of Bernie Madoff-esque scam to like hit the news any day, because it's like I maybe do they think that they did the analytics and that they determined that this wouldn't happen? Or
I have to believe that they did. So basically they started losing about $20 million a month every month as soon as they did this. And then the summer came, and hey, Matt, more people see movies in the summer, and starting in May, they started losing 40 million. Then they just, I think yesterday, posted their Q2 financial report. They lost $126.6 million in the second quarter of this year.
Wow.
For comparison, their Q2 losses in 2017 were 3 million. So they're actually, their shareholders sued them after they released this quarterly report for just like horrible mismanagement. And because the share price is now down to 3 cents a share.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's what I've been able to gather that their general strategy was. They thought that they had enough like venture capital money to collect enough individuals under the subscription model that they could start like getting into a position where they could negotiate with theater chains. So I think the long-term plan was, hey, we have 10% of your market share. A, give us a discount on tickets. B, maybe give us a hit of your concessions money because we're bringing people into your theaters. The problem with that is AMC was already working on a subscription service plan like this that they've since released, so they wanted nothing to do with them. And AMC is the biggest movie theater company in the country. So the biggest theater chain wanted nothing to do with them. The rest were very happy to take their full price ticket charges and benefit from the increased people coming to the theater, but were never really interested in dealing with them. Yeah.
And they're just not creating any value. Like you said, if they're not doing anything, the company themselves couldn't just be like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's implement that.
Right. And they tried so many different things. They had this idea that they're going to get into kind of distribution and production. So they I think they acquired MoviePhone at one point, and then they got into distributing movies. Cause I guess the idea was we've got a customer base of 3 million people. If we advertise a movie to these 3 million people, they'll go to that movie because look, we got them. So they distributed this movie called Gotti. You probably haven't heard of that movie, Matt, because it tanked. Nobody went to it.
Is that the one with
John Travolta?
John Travolta. Yeah. No, I heard about it as a hilarious, unintentionally funny, bad movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So none of what they tried to do worked. It just wasn't working, and they were bleeding money. And then as the summer rolled around and they were realizing that, hey, this isn't working, they started introducing all these new policies to basically make it so it became more of a pain in the ass to use the app. They made it so you couldn't see the same movie more than once on the service. So if you'd seen Infinity War using your MoviePass already, even though you had unlimited movies per month, you couldn't see Infinity War again.
Yeah.
Then they required you to take a screenshot of your ticket and submit it via a clunky interface in the app that you had to do. And if you didn't do that, they would fine you and penalize you and threaten you and all this scary stuff. And then in June, they announced something called surge pricing. So basically, if you wanted to go see a popular movie at a popular time, you would have to pay surge fees, $2, $4, $6, or even up to $8 extra to see the movie. And that's basically, getting close to the price of a movie ticket at that point. And the problem with the surge pricing rollout is they were never really clear with how it works, because people would get charged a $6 surge fee, walk into the theater and see it half empty. So whatever algorithm they were using for surge pricing, it either wasn't right, or it was just a lot of people are buying this ticket, so you have to spend extra on it. It had nothing to do with how popular your particular theater was, your showing. It had nothing to do with any of that. That's when I dropped the service, Matt. When they introduced the surge pricing, I was like, nah, screw this. I'm done. That's when I was out.
Yeah. A lot of these things sound like they actually might have been fine if they thought it through from the beginning and they implemented them from the beginning and you knew what you were buying into. But anytime they keep moving the goalposts and changing things, it's you're not giving me what I paid for anymore. So
yeah. And the biggest problem is how they rolled them out. They usually wouldn't tell people. I remember the first time I went and had to take a picture of my ticket, and I suddenly get a notification, don't forget to take a screenshot of your ticket. It's you guys didn't tell me about that. You didn't tell me, they had things where they were trying, they were just doing experiments, and they would just turn certain movies off in certain markets. So you just couldn't see this movie in this market this weekend, because they're just experimenting with different ways, I guess, of saving money.
What the hell?
And they wouldn't tell people about it. And it's just this company is just horribly managed. And in July, they just ran out of money and the service just stopped working. And they got this big influx of cash to basically keep them going. And then they came out with new rules. Basically, what they said was, we're going to change our service. It's going to be $15 a month. It's still going to be unlimited. But guess what? Any new blockbuster, you can't see the first 2 weeks. We won't let you see those until after 2 weeks. And people went insane. So they changed their mind again. And now they're moving to a new plan. As of September 15th, all their recurring customers will be on a new plan, which is $9.95 a month for 3 movies, which, Matt, is what they should have done from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that idea of not seeing a movie for the first 2 weeks is like not a bad idea intrinsically. It's the kind of thing where if they had started out with that, I feel like less people would have bought the service for sure.
Yeah.
But the people who bought the service would have probably been like a good target audience for them. And it's kind of hilarious.
It is.
Yeah. Just like the desperate fumbling for some kind of solution to this. It never was going to work at all. So it's just like constant attempts at stopgap Band-Aid solutions to something that cannot be fixed and cannot be saved because it's fundamentally unsound as a business.
Yeah.
I mean, you think it's going to stay here? Or do you think it's going to keep devolving?
I don't trust this company anymore at all, but I do think it's probably going to stay here. I think they've finally gotten to a point where they priced this thing and said, okay, the average person sees 1.5 movies per month, let's say. Then if we price it at this number and give them 3, we'll be doing okay.
Yeah.
I think that's their logic, and it makes a certain amount of sense. And one of the things we should say is everyone's getting into this game, right? In June, right after MoviePass, I think the day MoviePass announced their surge pricing, AMC announced their service, which is called AMC Stubs Plus something. It's $20 a month, and you get 3 movies a week. And their thing is like unrestricted. So you can see IMAX movies, you can see 3D movies. It's whatever you want. You can buy the tickets in advance. That's a thing that you couldn't do with MoviePass. I didn't mention that. You couldn't buy the tickets in advance. You had to be at the theater before it would work. It had to like geotag you at the theater before the app would work. So AMC, you could buy it in advance. That's still a pretty good deal, but you have to put up with AMC, which I don't like. Alamo Drafthouse has a service they're rolling out that is in beta right now, but 40,000 people have signed up for this thing. It's probably going to be priced similar to AMC's. They haven't announced the price yet. There's also another service called Cinema. It's the worst name ever. Cinemia.
Oh my God.
It's such a terrible name. It's similar to MoviePass. You can choose between like 3 plans of like, you can watch 1 movie per month for like $3 a month or something. 2 movies a month for something, and then up to 3, I think. And they have family passes, which is one thing none of these other services have had so far, where like you can, if you are married or with kids, you can sign up for a family pass. So more than just your use.
Yeah, that's all cool. I mean, these all, and this makes sense, but it seems like all of these ones you're naming seem like they're going to be priced higher,
right?
And have a higher threshold. But the thing is, in terms of number of movies, but the thing is, most people don't see 3 movies a month.
Right.
You know? I would struggle to see 1 movie a month. You know, like if I was paying for that, they would be making money on me, for example.
The average American sees 1 movie a quarter. So 4 movies a year. So, I mean, the interesting thing about this thing, though, is I think what as terrible as MoviePass is as a company, what it proves is people still like going to the movies. And for the long time, the industry has said, okay, people aren't going to the movies as much because we have so much entertainment on home television now. And that's true. We do. We like channels like, it is the golden age, the gilded age of TV. But I think the price is truly keeping people away. And if you find a way to give people a deal, they will take advantage of it. They will go to the movies. Like the reason why MoviePass was losing so much money is because they genuinely thought that people, for the most part, would go see 1 movie a month. They'd pay $9.95 and they'd go to 1 movie a month and they'd feel like they got their value. And maybe a couple people would go to 5, but not very many. And they were completely unprepared for how many people were going to take full advantage of this service and see a shit ton of movies. And I think that's saying something about the state of the industry, right? That if we can find a way, Like, I mean, AMC service, like, yeah, it's $20. It's double the price, but you could see 12 movies, which, you know, for the average person is a shit ton of, I don't see 12 movies a month.
Yeah.
So, and I go to the movies all the time. So, I mean, that's a damn good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think they're probably going to make money on it because most people are maybe they'll think they're going to, or they'll think like, oh yeah, no, I'll definitely see that many movies next month. And then maybe they do. And then the subsequent month, they don't quite make it to the theater as often. And then the subsequent month, they are sick and don't go to the theater at all. And man, they just recouped all their losses from that first month.
Well, and the secret thing about this is that AMC doesn't make money on ticket sales anyway. Mm-hmm. So they get your butt in that door, they're going to make money on food. And that's exactly what Draft House wants to do too. So like, that's why I think it's so fascinating that like MoviePass positioned themselves as a company that had to make money off of just their service. AMC is completely fine if their service breaks even or even loses money, as long as it corresponds with an increase in concession sales. Mm-hmm. And so they can take that hit. They're fine with it. Draft House is the same. They're fine with taking the hit on the subscription service itself because they have other methods of revenue to make up for that.
Oh yeah, Draft House especially because, you know, I'll actually buy their food in contrast to AMC.
It's delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's so funny to me because this is not like a new idea, right? I mean, like gyms have been doing this forever.
Yeah.
You buy, like, I think my wife does something, it's not like a gym membership. It's like a class pass thing where you like spend a certain amount per month and you get like a certain number of classes at local, not just gyms, but like local spin classes and yoga and bar classes. And it's basically the same thing, right? You pay, let's say $50 a month and you get 4 classes per month. And they are hoping that you won't go to all of them.
Yeah, right.
But the difference between that is most of these independent classes and these small studios are independently owned. So a company that's going to do that pass thing has leverage to negotiate with these small studios because they want to bring you in. Whereas a small company trying to do passes, trying to negotiate with AMC and Cinemark and Regal, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And it was it was a good idea. It was just a bungled execution. It's a mess. MoviePass, like I almost would resubscribe for $10 for 3 movies, except I don't trust them anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And also, Matt, a fun fact, when you cancel your account, you're banned for 9 months from signing back up again. So
that's pretty funny.
So even if they wanted to bring people back to the service, they couldn't. You can just give them another email address. But most people don't know that. Most people wouldn't think of that. So.
Oh, my God. Well, it'll be interesting to watch this space over the next year or so. I imagine that these subscription services will become more popular in general.
Yeah, I think so, too. I mean, I'm on the wait list for Alamo service. I'm considering trying AMC service. I just don't like AMC's, but it is such a good deal. I mean, I spend a lot of money at movies, so this is like this kind of stuff is right up my alley. So
yeah,
I want to see this succeed. And you know, as much as I hate MoviePass as a company, I think the idea of venture capitalists like subsidizing the entertainment for America for like a year is pretty great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's basically wealth redistribution.
Yeah, basically just funneled all of their money directly into all of these great movies we talked about in the first segment.
Yep. It's great. All right, so that is it for MoviePass. We'll see if this company even exists in a few months. I don't know. And now let's move on to our final segment, Matt. Let's talk about the Wachowskis. And let's talk about their first movie. Let's talk about Bound.
Yeah.
So do we want to start with the sisters in general, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, where to start? I mean, yeah. So I never heard of this movie until we decided we wanted to talk about the Wachowskis, whichever. And
I switched it, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
confusing.
I'm just gonna keep switching it now. And of course, they came onto the scene in everyone else's, in my mind, with The Matrix, which was actually, I believe, only their second movie.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable, actually.
It really is.
Because that's a movie. I mean, we're gonna get to that movie, but that's a movie where I could just talk about it forever. And so this is essentially all their entire directorial warm up to get to that point. And they tend to be like writer directors on many, if not most, of the projects they do. And they've worked together on almost everything they've ever done. Like it's actually the very small minority of cases where they've worked separately on something or individually on something.
Yeah, and they would even be credited, not individually on some of their stuff. Like this movie, they are credited together, right? And I think it's great because, we've talked about Speed Racer before, and I guess we have to decide when we get to that one, Matt, if we're going to do another whole episode on Speed Racer. I vote yes.
I am not surprised.
But yeah, I mean, I think family is a very important thing to them, and I think you see that reflected in their movies. And they love telling, stories about different kind of people, kind of people ostracized by the world. And they like exploring different kind of characters, not the usual type of people you see portrayed in movies. And I think it's fascinating that this first movie establishes that truism about them, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I guess we should like give a summary of what the movie is.
Sure.
So Bound is, I guess, it's noir, right? Like I would describe it as like a noir film.
Yeah, it's a noir crime film.
Yeah, and it's about a woman named Corky who gets out of jail and starts working for, I guess, a landlord fixing up an old apartment, and she meets her neighbor Violet and her mafia connected boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it's a love story between Corky and Violet. And as they try to steal money from her boyfriend and run off together.
Yeah, which is, of course, the mob's money and becomes extremely complex. And some critics apparently said it was like a Coen Brothers movie due to the complexity and intricacy of the plotting.
I didn't really see that.
It doesn't really feel like a Coen Brothers movie to me. It feels like a Wachowski brothers or brothers or sisters movie. To me, at the time, they were the Wachowski brothers. I suppose we can mention that they're transgender.
Yeah, and they've both come out as transgender women, which I think is I mean, that's extremely important to who they are as people, and it's something we have to talk about because I think, a lot of this movie, like I look at this movie knowing that they are transgender women, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I think if you look through their entire work, you can see that even before they were willing to come out.
Yeah, they have this focus on people who are marginalized and oppressed in a wide variety of ways, very often having some kind of alienation from the world and from their bodies specifically, even. But yeah, no, I mean, what's funny about this movie when I watched it is that I saw so much of the Matrix in it, actually, because and I specifically mean like the visuals, because the Matrix has this whole noir thing going on too, especially when they're in the Matrix. And you see so much of that where you have like these establishing shots of these rundown buildings, establishing the tone, and apparently they got a lot of their inspiration for like the photography of the movie from the Sin City comics, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and I don't know if I would have guessed that either, because to me, it's just its own thing. It's just like if you just showed me this and didn't tell me who did it, I would have guessed. Like, well, it looks a lot like The Matrix. So
yeah, and I love that the locations, there's an otherworldliness of it, and that fit very well in The Matrix because it was literally another world. But this building kind of feels like it doesn't exist in our world, right? It's like it's this rundown kind of dilapidated building. We never really get a good sense of where it takes place, like in the world proper. Like it's a low budget movie, so we spend a lot of time in this building, and I think like we go to a bar like one time and a restaurant like one time, but we're mostly like trapped in this building that like we never see any of the other residents of the building. It's just these two groups of people that all live on the top floor and the mob people around them, and it makes it feel like it's just like, and I think that's part of the noir nature of it, right? It's like this otherworldly kind of weird place.
Yeah, it's got this claustrophobic feeling to it, and in fact, thematically, they specifically said like the movie is about the boxes that people create for themselves. That's what they said, and they intentionally have almost everything is indoors in these enclosed spaces, and not just that, but also metaphorically the roles people create for themselves and feel like they can't escape from, the relationships people trap themselves in and feel like they can't escape from. Yeah,
I mean, this movie opens with our title character trapped in a closet, which is not subtle metaphor at all, right? It's very clear imagery, both about the sexual orientation of these characters, but more than just coming out of the closet as in a gay kind of connotation, just coming like redefining who you are. Like I love that you mentioned like trapped in boxes, because so much of this movie, so much of in the second half of the movie is these two women that are in love with each other are separated in their different rooms. And I love the scenes when they're talking to each other over the phone and they're like standing right next to each other, but they're separated into their room, into their box. So they're like communicating, but they're not really together yet. And I love that imagery. And there's a particular shot where like the camera like moves overhead, where you see that they're touching the same spot on the wall, and you see that from above. And I love the detail of that. I think it's so well done. Yeah, no,
they're definitely these women as directors. One of their strong suits, I would say, is stuff like that, like camera movements or just creative shots that say so many different things with a single shot, and convey exactly the emotion they wanted to convey. That's a great example of that.
And so I want to talk a little bit about the actresses real quick here. And I guess the actor too, because Joe Pantoliano, did I get it right? We practiced beforehand. Pantoliano. There we go.
Pantoliano,
yeah. So the movie stars Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly. I think they do a pretty good job here. Matt, I don't really like Jennifer Tilly as an actress in most everything she's in. I find her kind of abrasive to the point of annoyance, but I actually really like her in this movie. I think like out of all the things I've seen her in, this is my favorite performance of hers. I think it's a really complex performance. Like I love that it's established immediately. Like the first time we meet her, she's being like so over the top, ridiculously flirty, which I think is playing exactly to Jennifer Tilly's strengths. But as we move through the movie, we see her kind of like become powerful in a different kind of way. Like she's using her sex appeal at the beginning of the movie, but she kind of transforms in this movie as she like frees herself from her bindings, both literally and metaphorically. And I think it's such a wonderful, nuanced performance of hers. And I was not prepared to say that about Jennifer Tilly, who, like I said, I don't really like.
Yeah. I think she was great because she's sort of a character playing a character in the movie, and so there's two versions of her in the movie. And I guess I wouldn't have said that I didn't like her prior to this, or that I had any particular preconceived. I don't know if I've seen her in more than one other movie actually, but this is kind of almost like the role that was made for her, because it has she gets to play like the coquettish, kind of high voiced, weak character, and then she also gets to play like the steel underneath that, and play those two things off of each other, and that's really fun to watch. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I like Gina Gershon a lot. I think the interesting thing about this movie to me is, as it transitions into the second act, Corky kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit. as like the heist plan goes, because she's like, it was her idea, but she's just kind of trapped waiting in her room for a lot of it. So she doesn't get to do as much, I think. But I think she plays a really good character. And one of the things that like we have to say is that when they originally tried to pitch the story to people, they were told, change the Corky role to a man and I will make this movie. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. Because I mean, obviously this being a lesbian relationship is a very important part of what makes the movie work in the way it does.
Yeah.
But I think on top of that, I think what makes this movie so exceptional to me is that it is a fairly standard but well done like noir crime story that just so happens to be about two women instead of a woman and a man. And I think it's so great that the Wachowskis are just willing to shoot a movie that, like, I mean, a lot of the meaning and messaging behind it would change if there's a man in this role, but I don't think you'd shoot it that differently. I don't think you'd change the movie that much, because they're people. Like, they're just shooting people.
Yeah. No, I think that's apparently, you know, most of the critical reaction to the movie was that was great. Like, hey, you know, good job. You did it, and you didn't make it the whole point of the movie. Interestingly, there was a bit of a, I don't want to say backlash, but there were some people who said, like, this isn't really a gay film because it doesn't really focus on that. And to that, I suppose you would have to say, like, yeah, I guess it's not. It's not. I guess it's not trying to be either.
Yeah. But I think it is a little bit. I mean, like, they to choreograph the sex scenes, they went to Susan Bright, who's like a sex educator. Basically, I think they really wanted to be conscious of not like being too male gazy with the sex scenes, which is, I guess, knowing that they're transgender women now is a little ironic. But I think this is a very sexual movie. These are two very attractive women, and I think like the sex scene is powerful, but it doesn't feel like leery and uncomfortable to me. And I think that goes to how they shoot the scene and how they shoot. Like, this movie is really obsessed with hands. There's a lot of like really close shots of their hands, and I think because the hand in a lesbian relationship is like a sex organ, right? So they wanted to show the beauty and the power and the sensualness of these women's hands. And I think they did it in like, it's really classy, Matt.
Yeah. Apparently there were a lot of things like that I would never notice if my attention weren't drawn to it, but that people in the lesbian community specifically appreciated and noticed. Yeah. So yeah, they put a lot of attention into those things. I will say that when I saw this sex scene, I was like, wow, I didn't know you could show all that in a rated R film. Like, that's
especially in '96. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not that long, I guess. So.
No. Well, and I think they used very clever lighting and shadowing to make sure it didn't cross that we're gonna throw an NC-17 rating on you thing.
Yeah, I read that they had to cut the beginning of because it's basically one take or one shot. Yeah,
because the camera like circles around them, right?
Yeah, the camera circles around them, and apparently they had to cut like the beginning of the shot because it showed something that the censors wouldn't have accepted.
Huh. Okay. So let's talk about Caesar a little bit, because I think, first of all, Joe Pantoliano is just a great actor, and you can tell the Wachowskis liked him because he's in The Matrix, and I think he's in some of their other stuff too.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed watching this movie, and the first act of this movie is a specific focused love story between these two women, right? Like they meet each other in an elevator, and there's this tension, and then she's like Jennifer Tilly's character is like continually showing up and like inventing excuses for her to come over, like, oh, I dropped my earring in the sink and stuff like that. And then they're having like their first moment on the couch in her room, and what is leading to sex. And then Caesar barges in. And Caesar barges into the room, interrupting their love story, and the crime story barges into the love story of the movie and like completely changes the movie. And I think that's so clever because like the movie shifts at this point and becomes this crime story, this heist, and it doesn't really return to the love story portion of it until we've gotten rid of this guy, until he's out of the way, we're free from the things that we're bound to, and now we can live the life we want to live. And I think that's like, it's just so well done. And I liked it so much. I like he feels like he's just barging into this movie and changing everything and ruining everything. And I just thought that was such a great touch.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great point because you're like, no, I want to get back with the thing we were doing before, and then the movie's very clear. It's like, we're not gonna be able to get back to that until we get out of this, basically, until we get out of this bind that we're in.
Right, because the next scene after that is where they're torturing the guy that stole the money. So like until that point, it's just been flirting and this love story between these two people, one of which is like just out of prison and still trying to like figure herself out. And then all of a sudden a dude's being tortured, his fingers getting chopped off. We've got bloody money and a heist plan almost where they're going to steal stuff, and it just shifts totally. And it would feel like, I think it does kind of put you off balance, but it's supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it escalates and escalates. And I mean, I have to say, like, this is a really tense, like nerve wracking movie, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know, this isn't even too spoilery to say if I phrase it.
I think we
properly.
Can spoil the movie.
Yeah, we can talk about spoiler stuff. Basically, like, the women come up with a plan to steal the $2 million from the boyfriend Caesar, which is actually the mob's money, and it's a clever con where they're going to make him think that his basically the mob boss's son stole the money from him, and it basically creates a situation where he has to flee, or he basically assumes that he's going to get whacked, so he has to flee. And instead, like it's one of these perfect I guess like the typical heist genre trope is that they plan it perfectly and they kind of visualize how it's going to go even, and it actually goes off without a hitch until the last second when Caesar decides that he's going to basically keep everyone there and create his own con. And basically he's going off of bad information now, and it just escalates and escalates, and everyone's working at cross purposes and trying to backstab each other. And then he finds them out, and it's just so many twists and turns, and he's going crazy, and everyone's I'm just smiling thinking about it because it's so well done as a crime kind of con heist kind of movie. I don't know what the name of this would be exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I just call it crime noir, but I don't know if that's even right. Yeah, I totally agree, and I love that the whole plan around this heist of the money is playing into Caesar's preformed prejudices against other people, right? So it's almost as if they're playing into the boxes that they've put themselves in and they've put other people in, which fits with the themes, right? And I think one of the brilliant parts about this is the reason the plan goes wrong is because Caesar can't escape his binding. He's bound to this Johnny guy in this relationship, or the line where Corky says he's gonna believe you because he wants to believe you, because he's so convinced that this guy's trying to screw him over that he will totally believe this really complex, convoluted trick this guy was playing on him, even if it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And he's willing to go so far as to murder the mob boss's son and the head of the mafia himself because of this belief, because of this box that he's trapped into. And if he had just ran, if he had just escaped the box, escaped his bindings and ran, everything would have worked. But he's unable to do that, and it gets him killed.
Yeah, no, I love that. And on the same token, he takes forever to clock that the women are conspiring against him, because that doesn't fit with how he puts them in their boxes.
Exactly. Oh, that's such a good point, because that's him. That's the first interaction with him, right? He walks in the room, he sees two people standing there, and he immediately is like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like,
Yeah.
and then sees she's a woman, and then immediately is like, "Oh, okay." So
Yeah.
you're right. Like he can't see what's right in front of his face because he's got them in those set boxes of who they are. You know, as like sexually and as people. That's such a great point.
Yeah. He rejects the evidence of his own eyes because it doesn't comport with what he expects to see. And and I mean, that's great. That's a great theme because it's true. And like we said, it speaks to kind of what the Wachowskis have had to deal with in their lives, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that like it is kind of fascinating to think that they didn't come out as trans for decades, but this is something they were probably, you know, struggling with as they wrote this film. And I think that's like why I like doing this, Matt, because we're going to go back and look and see, like, this is a defining aspect of who they are as people and who they are as filmmakers. And it's right here, right in the beginning at their first movie, their first experimentation into this. They wanted to make a movie that was about sex and crime because those are the movies they liked watching, but they put their Wachowski-ness on it because that's who they are.
Yeah. I just think it was interesting how they were able to make this movie in the first place. It just kind of seems like they just kind of made it happen. And they got a fairly small budget, and apparently they just looked around. Apparently the first, I don't remember if it was the cinematographer or what exactly, but like the first one they found was like, yeah, this movie can't be made on this budget, and they just found someone cheaper who was like, yeah, I know a bunch of cheap guys, we can get it done for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I want to learn more about their process, you know, which is separate from just studying their movies,
right?
Because it's kind of fascinating to me because they're incredibly prolific, good at everything they do, and that's evident from their first movie too. You know, like it's only going to get better from here. Basically, I mean, they made some movies that weren't the best movies in the world, but this movie is really good. Their next movie is the goddamn Matrix. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I want to understand where this came from.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm making a call right now. We're going to do an episode on each of the Matrix movies because I think there's enough there. I mean, obviously we could talk about the first Matrix movie for an hour, 2 hours on its own, but I really want to get into the next two that were considered disappointments because I'm really fascinated by, you know, looking at those movies years later, but also in the context of their entire work. I'm really so I think we should do that. I think it's worth doing that.
I think there's a lot of rich stuff to be found in those movies. Actually, I think the problem is that they're so clashing with what you kind of like wanted out of a sequel to the Matrix that, for the same reason that a lot of people are rejecting certain current Star Wars films, it's just like, this isn't what I wanted,
right?
So it's bad, which
but I mean,
complicated.
But the truth is, this is probably exactly what Lana and Lily Wachowski wanted, because the Matrix was such a success. They got basically carte blanche on these next two movies and got to do whatever they wanted to. And these are the stories they wanted to tell. So it's almost, I mean, I think the Matrix is definitely the best one. And I think it's an example of how, you know, maybe limitations can create better art than free reign. But I also think, as two people that are kind of exploring these women and their work, seeing the movies that they get to make when they get to do whatever they want is really instructive to that.
Oh yeah. That's a great point. It also just kind of, I mean, I honestly think that there is excess in those movies.
I think, I mean, I don't think they're perfect movies for sure.
Yeah. But we'll get to that.
We will. We've got a long road ahead of us. I don't think the plan is for us to do this once a week. I think this is more of a, we're going to fit it in where we can type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've got lots of plans for shows ahead, and I definitely know we will not have room in next week's show for The Matrix, but maybe the one after that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you want to say about Bound?
Man, I nothing really specific. I just it's definitely a recommend from me.
Yeah.
Like the visual style is really something that I think sticks with me the most.
Oh yeah, the Caesar's death, where he's sitting in the middle of the white paint, and you see his blood like mix with the white paint. I think that's just a beautiful shot. Like the that idea and the composition of it is really great, really great.
Yeah. The script was written by the Wachowskis, and it's just a great script.
It is.
It's just like, even just setting aside, and by that I mean both in the macro in terms of the fact that it's really well plotted and tight and propulsive and doesn't waste any time, but also in the micro of individual scenes, like Jesus, the scene where I forget the character's name, but where the seduction is first happening. It's one of the most like intense, like believable to me, like just absolutely dripping with sexual tension scenes in any film. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like I put it near the top of the list of like sexual tension moments in film that I can recall.
And the thing I love the most about it is Corky, Gina Gershon's character, is kind of described and shown to be like the in charge one in her sexual relationship. Like we get to see a scene where she goes to a gay bar basically with the intent of picking someone up, and she just like sits down at a table where a woman's sitting there like with the intent of picking her up. So like she seems like the one that's in charge in these relationships. But when it comes to Jennifer Tilly's character, Violet, she is the completely the forward one, right? Like she's instigating all of this. It's kind of a complete role reversal there. And I think Corky digs that a little bit.
Yeah.
She likes not being in charge. She likes this woman like really pushing the envelope with her. And I think that's so wonderfully done.
Yeah. Like you almost get the sense that Corky is like intimidated by her because she's like too pretty or something.
Yeah.
This is all subtext that I'm inferring. That was kind of my take. Because she seems very like Corky seems very shy around her, even though she's not shy in other contexts.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed at the very end of the movie, when the two characters have now successfully gotten away with all the money, they're in the truck and they're leaving. It's like right when the movie closes. Violet is now wearing a black leather jacket that looks exactly like Corky's. And I think the indication of this to me is that the person we saw her throughout the entire movie was her like being the person that Caesar wanted her to be, like the way she dresses, the way she looks. Like throughout the movie, she's always heavily in makeup. She has very like heavy lipstick on. And at the very end of the movie, she's not wearing that anymore. She's wearing a jacket just like Corky's. And the last line of the movie is, "You know the difference between you and me, Violet?" And like it's basically nothing, right? Like it's like there's no difference between the two of us, because we're both free to be the people we are and the people we are who is just like each other. And I think that's such a subtle thing that they don't really necessarily draw attention to. But like she looks so different at the very end of this movie than she has looked in every other part of the movie.
Yeah. That reminds me of an earlier part actually, where kind of, I may not be remembering it perfectly, but it's like the closest thing they have to a lover's tiff, and it's clear that Corky is judging. What's her name?
Violet.
Corky is judging Violet for shacking up with Caesar and basically kind of living off of his money, and she's put Violet in a box basically. Yeah. And Violet like very angrily and rather like strongly and convincingly is like, you, first of all, you don't know anything about me or where I come from, and why things are this way. And and like it's fairly presumptuous of you to assume that you do.
Yeah.
And basically kicks that box right off of her, and that's one of the moments in the film actually that establishes these characters as being more multidimensional than. I mean, to get a little bit meta for a second, like we as film viewers are trying to put characters in boxes. That's what archetypes are.
Right.
Like we're trying to be like, all right, yep, that's the mob guy and his girlfriend. Yep, I already know how they're going to behave. So like a lot of it's probably a good storytelling principle in the first place, just to be like, be aware of what archetypes you're invoking so that you can defy them intelligently and buck them in ways that are dramatic and surprising.
That's a really fantastic point. And this whole thing makes me think, so Corky and Violet's relationship works because every time they try to put each other into boxes, they reject that. And the other person like acknowledges that, like she's that whole conversation, she's like you were having sex with other people. Like, I don't want to put up with that shit. And it's like, that wasn't sex, that was work. And that conflict is resolved. Like, you're right. She kicks that box off her and says, no, that's not who I am. That's not, you don't understand. And that's accepted. But at the very end of the movie, Caesar still has Violet in a box because he says, you won't shoot me. Like, I know you, I know who you are, and you won't shoot me. And the line she says back to him is, Caesar, you don't know shit. And that's her officially like escaping those bindings, removing herself from that box. And the reason why, once again, that Caesar loses is because he can't see past that. He can't see her as anyone but the person he's put in that box.
Yeah.
And that's such a perfect way to end the film. Like, that's such a perfect conceit of the story of the movie. I love Absolutely. That so much.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And like the look on his face as he's like, well, you don't know if he actually realizes this or not, but yeah, it's like, yep, nope. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point. That's really tight script writing.
It is. It's such. I was thinking the same thing. It's such a tight script. Yeah. So I think we've talked just about all we can about this movie. So why don't we go ahead and wrap this thing up? If for some reason you've listened to this entire segment and we spoiled the entire movie for you, but you still want to watch it, Bound is available both on Hulu and on Amazon Prime. So if you have a subscription to either of those services, you can watch the movie as part of that subscription service there. And I strongly recommend you do if you haven't seen this movie. It's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that is all we had for you guys this week. Let us know what you think about MoviePass, or if you've watched Bound or have opinions about the Wachowskis, let us know about that. You can reach out to us via email. It's doofmedia@gmail.com or over on Twitter @doofmedia. And as we decide when we're doing the next movie in this ongoing Deconstructing the Wachowskis marathon, we will announce that on Twitter as well. So if you want to know, like, if you want to follow along with us and watch the movies with us before our episodes air, follow us on Twitter so you'll know when those are coming out.
Yeah. And if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And we have tons of great content over here, and we're trying out new stuff every day. So head on over to doofmedia.com. That's our website, our new website, and check out all of our different shows and all the different things we do. The website should be all working again. I broke it earlier in the week, but it should be all fixed now. So if you are having a problem with it, if you're getting an error message or something, please let me know. If you do like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia. You can pledge $1 a month or whatever else you can afford to help ensure we keep growing and keep making new content. And we have tons of great patron rewards for our patrons at each and every donation level. So check that out.
Yeah, I think they're definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts if you have that opportunity. Every review helps us to get more exposure and introduces new people to the stuff we do here.
Yeah, so that's all for this week. Matt, we have a guest coming on the show next week. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a great conversation. So we can't wait for you all to hear it. I guess we're gonna be secretive about it. I just decided that right now. But
yeah, let's be close to the chest for no reason.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you next week.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.